Hey everyone, welcome back. In this video, we're going to be doing a review of The Warriors of Ultramar, which is the second book in Graham McNeil's Ultramarine series. This video is going to be different than my first video with the Nightbringer. I won't be reading from a script, and I won't be doing a full-on overview, and I'm just going to be focusing on the main points and a review. With that being said, let's get to it. To summarize Warriors of Ultramar, Captain Ventress and the Fourth Company act on an ancient debt to help a planetary system defend from a Tyranid invasion. Now, if you're new to Warhammer 40,000 in the lore, the Tyranids are a race of aliens that are very bug-like, and they exist only to consume. They consume any sort of bioorganic material to feed their ships and their evolutionary chambers to breed more warriors. This means humans, plants, animals, bacteria, you name it, they're going to consume it. That defining characteristic of that race has earned them the nickname the Great Devourer. Now, Warriors of Ultramar takes place sometime after Nightbringer, and it's actually preceded by a short story called Consequences, where it sets the stage for the incoming Tyranids. In my opinion, it's not super necessary to read that short story, but it's good to kind of have that little background information. I wouldn't recommend against reading that story. In this book, we see some appearances of a successor chapter of the Ultramarines, Imperial Guard regiments, some very popular Imperial Guard regiments I might add, the Inquisition, and a very unique faction of Space Marines called the Death Watch, who specialize in hunting alien life forms. So after reading this story and getting my thoughts together on it, this story is a tale of perseverance regardless of who you are, where you came from, what your training was like. It's very much a David and Goliath story. The odds against the defenders are just insurmountable. And the author does a great job at detailing at how unrelenting a foe like the Tyranids really are. And that even in the face of that sheer unrelenting hopelessness, a warrior of Ultramar does not quit. They do not give up. And in the story, you see that, frankly, that title is not reserved for Space Marines alone. It's just a very heroic story. It epitomizes the whole Ultramarine doctrine of courage and honor. And again, I know how much flack the Ultramarines get in the codexes for certain authors. This story is one of those that characterizes them in a really good light. And frankly, it's easy to see why the Ultramarines are one of the chapters in the Imperium that a lot of ordinary humans and the rest of the Imperium look up to. This book also has extremely large-scale storytelling, and the author does a great job at depicting at the sheer vastness of some of these battles and how apocalyptic some of the battles are, which is fitting when you're telling a story with the Tyranid, given how they're characterized in the lore. A theme that I think is important in this story is identity. In Nightbringer, Uriel Ventress takes over command of the Fourth Company from a captain who had unorthodox methods. And naturally, Uriel takes over those methods, or takes that similar mindset of leading. So in this story, we see the possible ramifications of kind of using your own head in an environment like the Ultramarines or the Space Marines in general that follow religiously a doctrine like the Codex Astartes, and how unorthodox methods like the ones Uriel Ventress uses are somewhat looked down upon, to say the least. This story has a bit of a minor subplot with some of the Undercity or the Hive gangs in the lower part of the capital city. Those parts, to me personally, were a little dry at first, but as the story progresses, it's really cool to read how groups other than Space Marines deal with a threat like the Tyranid. And it also shows that heroism can be found regardless of where you are or what kind of social caste you're a part of. It was also great to read about a successor chapter to the Ultramarines. I'm always a fan of hearing about different and more obscure or underrepresented chapters. And in this particular case, the interactions between the Ultramarines and this chapter are actually quite unique as they're worlds apart despite being so closely related. This book was not hard to read at all. It was an incredibly easy page turner, and frankly, there were absolutely no dry spots in my opinion. I definitely recommend anybody who's interested in any of Graham McNeil's books and the Ultramarines to absolutely read this one. However, be warned, it does make a few references to Nightbringer, so if you haven't read that one, it may be good to read that one first, then read this one. Not reading Nightbringer won't make the book hard to understand, but it'll definitely help you appreciate some of the subtle points in it. That being said, this book was awesome. I had so much fun reading it. I hope you guys read it, and I hope you enjoyed this review. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.